let's talk about ways of, yeah, instead of directing that attention outwards of what others might think or fitting into that outward mold, and more of that inward introspection. And Jennifer sent me this true mirror, and I literally
Mhm.
just opened it up and unpacked it yesterday with a friend of mine, Haley, and we set it up. And I knew it was a true mirror. Okay. I knew that it was going to give me a reflection of myself that wasn't a mirror image, that was more the version of what people see of me. But
Mhm.
I didn't know like what it would look like. So I kind of just thought it was going to be a flat mirror that I hung up and somehow it just like, flips and you look at it differently. But it's actually like this box with mirrors reflecting, of course, because you need that to flip the image. But I just didn't think of that when I thought of it first. And you put your face into it and you look at yourself as others see you. And so me and my friend Haley yesterday, we went on this awesome hike to this waterfall and then came back down. And then I grabbed the box and opened it. And I was like, oh, Haley, this is a true mirror. She's like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to look into one. I've been hearing about them. And I was like, oh, cool. Cause it got delivered, but I hadn't opened it yet. So we opened it up and just like set it up and looked at it and went through the little booklet that comes with it with some prompt questions just to like, yeah, start using it. And so I know because when we first talked and from what I know about portrait healing, and I want you to share more on that, this true mirror, this perspective of yourself, not as we see ourselves through a mirror, but as others see us. Why is this important? Why did you get into this version of healing for yourself, or this perspective, let's say visually? Yeah, and I'm glad that I tried it yesterday before we talked today, because now I even looked at it in it this morning, like kind of first thing. I just kind of went in and was like, good morning. I love you.
Yes.
I just kind of looked at my eyes in a new way, right? It was really cool, actually. I put it in a place where it's like almost at eye level. I kind of have to bend down just a little bit, but then I can put my head in. I'll find a better spot for it, but for now it's perfect. But why? And tell us more about portrait healing.
So why is because the way that our brains read body language and the way that our expressions are shown on our face are asymmetrical. So when we're looking in a regular mirror, our brain is reading our emotions in reverse. So they're not being read properly. Like for instance, a smile is asymmetrical. We smile, a side of our face is not as out as the other side of the face. That is always on the, don't quote me on this. I'm like, going back and forth from the true mirror to reverse mirror and the whole thing, I get like dyslexia, but on one side of our face, the smile is more prominent. And the way that our brain reads that, if it's non-reversed, is correct. But when we're looking in a regular mirror, that mirror image is not being read correctly. And our eyes are searching for the emotion that we're feeling to match, but it doesn't. And so we automatically want to shut down to that. So if you like think back when you were like a kid, some people resonate with this, some people don't, but I personally spent a lot of time in the mirror. As a child, I remember clearly sitting in front of a mirror and trying to relate to the person I was seeing. But because my body language and my facial expressions weren't being read properly, the emotion got shut down. And so we have spent majority of our lives looking into this mirror, feeling our self shut down with ourself, which then creates a whole other world of insecurities because you're trying to see like the beauty in yourself. And if you smile in a regular mirror, you're actually seeing the opposite emotion. You're seeing a sort of negative expression. It's not really like mischievous or evil necessarily, but it's just not the warmth, smiley, human that you want to see. So the true mirror, being able to provide a non-reflective reflection or non-mirrored reflection, allows you to look at yourself and have the emotional response that you would have with others because your brain is reading the facial expressions correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that is like when I had learned about body language and facial expressions prior to learning about the true mirror. And when I found the true mirror online on social media, I instantly was like, whoa, what is this? This is crazy. His whole shtick is like seeing you saw on his social media, his whole thing is like seeing yourself now reversed and like you get this emotional feedback loop or whatever. I immediately bought it, started to implement it into my own like self-care practices. And what I found was something extremely profound, like to be able to look at myself. And it's really awkward in the beginning because you know you're looking at yourself, but you kind of are having this like outer body experience where you're just like, I'm looking at myself, but it's not the way that I've always seen myself. And I'm also seeing a life in my eyes that I've never seen before. So like when you smile, the feedback loop from your emotion in a true mirror, it continues. But when you're in a non-reverse, that feedback loop wants to stop because the emotion's not being read correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So in the true mirror, you get to like really just go so deep with yourself. You could see yourself laugh, you can see yourself cry, you can give yourself affirmations, you can ask yourself questions like, is this what I want? And then see the emotions on your face and like get a read of that and see if that's like really true for you, or what's the hesitation, what's the, what's the nuance, uncertainty, like what is that? And it allows you to kind of dive in deeper about what you're experiencing and why. But without that, we don't really have like the fodder to go deeper, or it takes a lot of mental gymnastics to do it.
Mm-hmm. And what's the difference between seeing it in real time in the true mirror and then seeing a picture of yourself? Because that's, if someone were to
So
take a picture of you, I mean, I also know that people have profound moments when they see pictures of themselves, especially when it maybe is like,
absolutely.
oh, I look happy or I don't, or my weight or whatever. Like, I know that can sometimes be that perspective, but I guess it's the same and different, right? Because you're alive, you're alive
Well,
is inside the true mirror versus the picture. But I know you do both, right? In portrait healing.
portrait healing, yeah. So portrait healing is both. I'll answer your question first and then I'll explain what portrait
Yeah.
healing is. But with a photo, yeah, you do have that profound experience, but it ends because you don't get to continue relating to yourself. You're just seeing a moment of relation. In the true mirror, that gets to continue and you get to let your brain kind of unfold in like a communication style with yourself. So portrait healing, actually, what portrait healing is now today was like a slow creation from my own life experience that started out when I had just started therapy in 2016, and a few months into therapy, my therapist had said something to me that like really hit home. And he said, I'll never be able to feel the kiss of a loved one if I don't take my mask off. And it was like, whoa, like it was just like, I get chills thinking about it now. So I went home having that thought in my head, and at the same time was like very deeply depressed, dealing with suicidal ideation every day, struggling as an artist. I'm a photographer, so I was always trying to create like outside of my mood. I'm generally like a bright, colorful person, but at that time in my life, my creative process was really beckoning me to honor the dark parts, but I didn't know how to sit with it. I didn't know what that looked like. And in that frustration one night while trying to create earlier that day and just not liking what I was putting out, sorry, I have something in my eye. I got this idea as I was falling asleep to document my depression, just document when I'm in those moments of really feeling my feelings. So the next day, with this like eagerness to create and also just heavily depressed, I set my camera up on a tripod and let the time lapse just like roll on its own. And I just like went through my feelings. And when I pulled up the camera or the photos on my computer, I was really kind of expecting to see like a creative process. Like I had set up the shot just so the light was right, my hair was like a certain way, whatever. And while I did see that in it, what I actually saw more so was just like the raw form of my humanness. And I immediately experienced this like kind of compassion for myself. And then this light bulb came on. It was like, whoa, they're always telling us we need to have a relationship with ourselves, but how can we do that if we don't witness our human experience?
Mm-hmm.
So from there, it just kind of became like, I was always taking pictures. I mean, at that time in my life, I was heavily dealing with a lot of emotion. It was every day, all the time. So I was just constantly documenting. And then I would, at the time, I was also doing a lot of journaling. And it wasn't until about a year into that process that I got the idea to take a video of myself. I had some weird insecurity about eating in front of people to the point where I wouldn't really share meals with anyone. And tying that thought back to what my therapist said about the mask and not feeling the kiss of a loved one, and me trying to find more ways to connect, all the times that I had turned down dinner with friends was keeping me from making those connections. So I decided to take a video of me eating just to see what that would look like, because if it looks bad, then I can correct it. If it doesn't, then my insecurity can be diminished. So I took a video and I watched me eat, and I watched it, and I didn't look terrible or gross or whatever. And I kind of sat with that and I was like, what? I've been carrying this insecurity for so long. Where did that insecurity come from? Like, why am I even holding on to this? Like, what is this even about? And it took me a couple of days to figure out like where that had come from. But out of nowhere, I had this like flashback of when I was like 9 or 10, to having dinner with a family friend with my family and watching them eat. And the way that they were eating grossed me out. And I internalized how they were eating into my own insecurity and lived with it for the rest of my life up until like 32. So it was this such an aha moment. So from there, now I'm recording video all the time. I'm like setting up my phone. I was using my phone now to take the video, just to like make my bed or take a shower, to, I don't know, to make dinner, to walk the dogs, to go run. Like I would go to the park and run just to see what I looked like when I was running. Like I had just all of these insecurities that I wanted to see if they were real, or to see like what that was and what I needed to do to fix that or correct that. And every single time I took a video and saw that I was being insecure about nothing, then I would like dive in and be like, well, where'd that insecurity come from? And then there would be all these questions that would come from it. So portrait healing has progressed from all of that to what it is now, which is using True Mirror and video journaling. So video journaling, I love video journaling more than I like written journaling, because when you're doing video journaling, especially when you're doing it in conjunction with the True Mirror, you're getting emotional validation from yourself, which really allows you to go deeper and get into that like raw, on your high horse like state. You're just like letting it go and you're ranting and you're getting all of it out. But when you're writing, you're kind of inhibited by the speed of your hand. All the energy is kind of like from your elbow down. You're not able to like get up and move your whole body and like really see all the expressions. So I've implemented the two. And when you do the both of them together, I use them individually also. It just kind of depends on like my mood. But when I really want to like dive into my experience, I'll use both of them. So I set up I have the True Mirror on my wall, and I have a phone holder that's connected to it. And I'll hit record on my phone and start talking to myself in my True Mirror, which is like talking to a friend. So I'm getting like this real emotional feedback loop. Like think about the difference between talking to a friend in person and talking to them on the phone. Like even if it's someone that you've known really well, I know you've mentioned your best friend Allie. Like even with her, you probably on the phone when you talk to her, you may have a harder time opening up and letting all the things out, because she's not there in front of you. You don't know what she's doing on the other end. Like, is she running around, and are you being distracting to her? Or I don't know. These
Mhm.
are thoughts that I go through.
Yeah, I definitely notice a difference between like texting or talking on the phone, or especially in person. Not
Yeah.
necessarily better or worse that I can think of now, but there's definitely a difference in the level of intimacy and connection we feel, even with the people closest to us, depending on, yeah, if they're alive in the flesh there or not.
Yeah. So when you're doing it in the True Mirror, you're getting that like alive in the flesh response from you that continues to validate you 100% without that like insecure, curious brain,
Mhm.
because you're seeing it in the real form,
I
right?
wonder, I wonder, because of what you're sharing, like I remember when I first started making videos for Runtastic and creating content for social media, right? You go through a phase where you're so fucking critical and you're just like, I have to
Yes.
redo that. That sounds weird. I remember one time recording a video and I had roommates, awesome roommates who, yeah, just wonderful people. But one of them, Gavin, I remember he came out of his room one time and was like, okay, you're done. You can't record that video again. You said it already. Like I know the script. Like he knew what I was saying. It was so funny. It was like a little Valentine's Day snippet that I had to record about like your heart rate and blah 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 and running and getting your heart rate up and love and Valentine's Day. And he was like, you're done. And I remember having to like rebuy all the groceries to refilm a cooking video because I just like didn't like the way I looked or sounded or just something off the charts, right? So I wonder, like, that was also like portrait healing in a sense, because I had to get to the point where I was just like, I don't even care. I don't even want to watch it as long as, the audio was good and crisp and like the video quality and the, like it's not blurry. I don't really care anymore because it's time to move on, post, share, like keep it moving. You can't, it was just a lot. Like you hold yourself hostage and you're stuck, especially when I was in a position of putting videos on every single week on YouTube, right? For within other companies. So it's like you have to work through that a lot. But I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of portrait healing because you watch these videos and you see it and you're like, what am I worried about? Or why did I think that was so important that I said it this type of way and did it like in this order? Or like you mentioned, the weird eating, like, why did I think that? I didn't even see myself in that way. And I wonder if that true mirror practice can really help people show up online and in a space where you are putting content out there, where you are putting things that people see, your expressions and your movements in video and things like that. Because when I didn't think about that before when you and I were talking, and I didn't think about that about the true mirror when I was using it, but just now I was like, oh yeah, I remember there was a definite like wave of emotion and self-integration and learning and understanding that I had to really work through when it was time to record a bunch of videos. And you're like, wait, what, and then it was like my skin was kind of crappy for a while and I had issues there. So then it was like, what's my skin look like? And is this the right angle? It was just so much that I can see how then after you film yourself going through a challenging day or whatever, you watch it and you're just like, there's so much that comes from hearing your voice recorded and from seeing
Yeah.
you. It's kind of cool to think about it that way.